The cobblestone streets of Barcelona's Gothic quarter whisper secrets after dark. Most tourists see the vibrant nightlife, the bustling tapas bars, the architectural marvels of Gaudí, but if you wander deep enough away from the neon glow of Las Ramblas, you'll find shadows that have lingered for centuries. This is where our story begins, with a young art student named Leo. Leo had moved to Barcelona for a semester abroad, drawn by its bohemian spirit and rich history. He'd found a surprisingly affordable attic apartment in a centuries-old building in El Gothic. The place was a maze of narrow, winding staircases and creaking floorboards, but it had character, and a small balcony that overlooked a labyrinth of terracotta rooftops. His landlady, an elderly woman named Señora Isabel, lived on the ground floor. She was kind but reclusive, her eyes holding a sadness that seemed as ancient as the building itself. One evening, while sketching the moonlit cityscape from his balcony, Leo heard it for the first time. A faint melodic humming. It was beautiful, yet haunting, like a lullaby sung in a forgotten key. It seemed to come from somewhere within the building, maybe from the courtyard below. He leaned over the railing, but the courtyard was empty, swallowed by shadows. He dismissed it as the city's nightly symphony, the distant hum of traffic, the echo of a street musician. But the humming returned the next night, and the night after that. It was always the same melody, always at the same late hour. It began to seep into his dreams, weaving itself into surreal landscapes of empty streets and weeping statues. He started to feel a constant low-level anxiety, a sense of being watched. The charming quirks of his old apartment now felt sinister. The creak of a floorboard was a footstep. The sigh of the wind through the eaves was a whisper. He mentioned the humming to Señora Isabel one afternoon as he was leaving. He tried to keep his tone light, casual. "Señora, do you ever hear singing at night, a kind of lullaby?" A shudder seemed to fall over her face. The warmth in her eyes vanished, replaced by a cold, guarded look. "It is just the wind, young man," she said, her voice clipped. "This old building groans. You will get used to it." She turned and shuffled back into her apartment, closing the door with a soft but definitive click. Her reaction unnerved Leo more than the humming itself. It was clear she was hiding something. His curiosity, now laced with dread, got the better of him. He started researching the history of the building, spending hours in the local library, sifting through dusty archives. He found little, just deeds and ownership records stretching back to the 17th century. Frustrated, he turned his attention to local folklore. It was there, in a book about Catalan legends, that he found it. The tale of La Dama Silenciosa, the Silent Lady. The legend spoke of a woman who lived in the Gothic quarter centuries ago. She was a gifted singer, but fell in love with a man her family forbade her from seeing. Heartbroken, she was locked away in the highest room of her family home. She eventually stopped speaking, communicating only through the sad lullabies she hummed to herself. The legend said she died of a broken heart, and her spirit remained, forever humming her song of sorrow, searching for her lost love. As Leo read, a cold dread washed over him. The description of the house in the legend matched his building almost perfectly. The highest room, his attic apartment. That night, the humming felt different. It was clearer, closer. It wasn't coming from the courtyard or another apartment. It was coming from inside his room. Leo sat bolt upright in bed, his heart hammering against his ribs. The melody was unmistakable, weaving through the air, seeming to emanate from the very walls around him. He fumbled for the light switch, but his hand was shaking too much. He forced himself to scan the dimly lit room. The moonlight streamed through the window, casting long, distorted shadows, and then he saw her. In the corner of the room, near the old wooden wardrobe, stood a figure. It was a woman, translucent and shimmering, her form flickering like a weak flame. She was dressed in what looked like an old-fashioned, high-collared gown. Her face was obscured by shadow, but he could see her head was bowed, as if in deep sorrow. The humming came directly from her. Leo was paralyzed by a fear so profound it felt like a physical weight pressing down on him. He couldn't scream, couldn't move. He just stared as the spectral figure slowly, almost imperceptibly, began to drift across the room towards his bed. He could feel the temperature in the room plummet. His breath plumed in front of his face. The figure stopped at the foot of his bed. She lifted her head, and for a terrifying second, Leo saw her face. It was young, beautiful, but etched with an eternity of sadness. Her eyes were hollow voids, dark pits of despair that seemed to suck the very light and warmth from the room. She didn't have a mouth, yet the humming grew louder, more insistent, a sound of pure, undiluted grief that resonated deep in his bones. Suddenly, a floorboard creaked loudly from the hallway outside his door. The spectral woman's head snapped towards the sound. Her form flickered violently, and with a final, mournful note that echoed like a dying breath, she dissolved into nothingness. Leo lay there, gasping for air, the cold silence of the room now more terrifying than the humming had been. After what felt like an eternity, he heard slow, shuffling footsteps moving away from his door. Señora Isabel? Had she been listening? Did she know? The next morning, Leo looked like a ghost himself. Dark circles ringed his eyes, his face pale and drawn. He packed a small bag. He couldn't stay another night. As he descended the stairs, he saw Señora Isabel waiting for him in the entryway. She looked at him, her own eyes filled with a weary resignation. "You saw her," she stated, her voice barely a whisper. It wasn't a question. Leo just nodded, unable to speak. "She was my ancestor," Isabel explained, her gaze distant. "The story is true. Her sorrow has tethered her here. She is harmless, just lost, but she is drawn to the lonely, the heartbroken. She senses your artist's soul, your solitude." She paused, her eyes meeting his. "Every few decades a tenant like you comes along, someone who can hear her, someone who can see her. I try to protect her. And you protect me?" Leo finally managed to say, his voice hoarse. "She does not mean harm," Isabel insisted. "But her sadness, it is a deep well. If you stay, it will drown you. You will become part of her sorrow." She handed him a small tarnished silver locket. This belonged to her. The man she loved gave it to her. If she appears again, show it to her. It may give her a moment of peace. But you must leave, Leo, for your own sake. Leo took the locket, its metal cold against his skin. He didn't want to test the theory. He thanked the old woman, her warning echoing in his mind. He left the key on the table and walked out of the ancient building, not looking back. He didn't stop walking until the sun was high in the sky and the sounds of the Gothic Quarter were replaced by the modern hum of the city. He finished his semester living in a bright, modern flat on the other side of Barcelona, far from the shadows of the old city. He never heard the humming again. But sometimes, on quiet nights, when he looks at his sketches of the Barcelona rooftops, he can almost feel a chill in the air. He still has the locket. He keeps it locked away in a box, a cold, silver reminder of the silent lady who still hums her sorrowful lullaby in the attic of a forgotten building, forever waiting for a love she can never have. And he knows, with a certainty that chills him to the bone, that she is still waiting for the next lonely soul to hear her song. Thanks for listening to my story. If you enjoyed this journey into the shadows of Barcelona, don't forget to subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next adventure into the unknown. See you next time.